Want to stand out and prove your worth? Want to make women do what you want? So let's get started. Do it, and see how they like that side of you. Do you feel that something is not right? Do you sense that she may be emotionally involved with someone else? There is a discomfort inside you, that feeling that maybe you are being put aside. And what do you intend to do with it? Will it consume itself internally, trying to prove its worth at any cost? Before we proceed, I need to tell you to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of the next ones. Thank you. Now let's move on. If you truly believe that you are being neglected or replaced, know one thing: insisting, begging, or chasing to be noticed will only lower your own esteem. Don't try to convince anyone of your worth. Instead, change the focus completely. The best response is silence combined with action. Start dedicating your time to yourself. Take care of your appearance. Invest in your physical and emotional health. Go back to doing what made you good before. Go out with friends, discover new places, seek new air. This isn't about causing jealousy or generating a reaction. It's about regaining the shine you may have left aside, trying to please someone who no longer sees your value. By reorganizing your routine and strengthening your self-confidence, you automatically become more attractive, not only to her, but to the world around you. Your posture changes, your energy changes, and people feel it. Distancing, when accompanied by personal growth, generates curiosity and interest. And when she realizes that you're better than ever, maybe try to get back together. And what to do? At this moment, the answer is simple. Maintain your dignity. Don't return to the same place where you were left in the background. Show that those who really value themselves do not accept being an option. Your absence needs to speak louder than any desperate attempt at presence. Respect is born from the balance between presence and distance. Demonstrating that you know how to move forward is the strongest message you can give. And it is not necessary to say anything, just to show with attitudes that you do not depend on anyone to be complete. Life is too short to be lived trying to convince someone to value you. Its brightness does not need external approval. True transformation happens when you understand that the best way to deal with the disinterest of others is to invest in yourself. By doing so, you change the direction of the story, not as revenge, but as rebirth. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. Dress well, highlight your qualities, connect with people who raise your energy, record your good times lightly and naturally. When she notices that you are surrounded by good company and with a renewed countenance, the doubt will come. Has he surpassed me? And that's when you win. Not with anger, not with harsh words, but with silence and posturing. Indifference is a powerful weapon when loaded with maturity. And if she tries to return, you'll already be on another level. A level where the priority is you, and not the approval of someone who didn't know how to recognize your value when they had the chance. Remember, the real power lies in not reacting with desperation, but with elegance. You don't need to attack, just grow. It's not about revenge, it's about evolution. The person who chooses to move forward with courage becomes a reference, not only for others, but for himself. So don't wait for her to value you to value herself. Be the first to see your own worth. Those who understand this never again submit to situations that diminish their light. From the moment you understand that you don't need to beg for attention, everything changes. You stop acting on scarcity and start living fully. This change in posture changes the whole way people see you. What was once a desperate attempt to be seen now becomes a natural demonstration of confidence and emotional stability. It is necessary to understand that those who really love you do not doubt your importance. When someone starts acting disinterested, cold, or involved with another person, it says more about their inner mess than about their worth. And when you realize this, you no longer have to chase, beg, or try to compete with others. You simply choose to preserve yourself. While many still believe that reacting with fury or confrontation is a way to prove strength, the real power lies in acting with serenity. Demonstrating that you have control over your emotions is infinitely more powerful than any outburst of jealousy or attempts at manipulation. Whoever dominates himself dominates the environment. Personal evolution is visible when you understand that absence is often the most effective response. Strategic retreat does not mean weakness, but wisdom. You leave the stage without drama, but with class. And when this happens, the other begins to feel the weight of your silence. When you invest in your appearance, your well-being, your friendships, and new experiences, you are reaffirming to yourself that your life does not depend on the presence of those who do not value you. And this generates a direct impact. What was once insecurity now turns into a firm presence and unwavering posture. Social networks, when used with balance, can also be a reflection of this turn. Showing your routine lightly, surrounded by good company, with a calm and smiling face, is not about provoking jealousy, but about demonstrating that life goes on and continues well. This generates impact. The person who has passed away begins to realize that perhaps he has let something precious slip away. At this point, it is common for her to try to go back. Often, not because they understood their value, but because they felt their absence. And here's the key. You shouldn't be moved by longing, but by awareness. Don't allow neediness to push you back into a cycle that only weakens you. True wisdom lies in distinguishing longing from deserving. Missing you is natural, but reopening space for those who hurt you without real change in behavior is putting yourself in emotional danger again. You can't allow yourself to live stuck in what slows you down. Your heart is fertile soil and deserves to be cultivated with respect, not with doubt. If she really wants to come back, let her come with concrete actions, not just empty words. And yet, it's up to you to decide if the return is worth it. The priority now is you, the construction of their peace, their emotional autonomy, and their journey. No one should be more important than your inner stability. Understand one thing. Being indifferent is not being cold. It is knowing how to separate what is good for you from what hurts you. It is knowing the right time to withdraw to preserve your essence. Those who do not understand their value automatically move away. And that's okay. Better the loneliness that brings growth than the company that pushes you into the abyss. Value yourself to the point of never accepting crumbs again. You deserve wholeness, genuine attention, true care. And all of this starts within you. When the internal world is nurtured with respect and self-love, the external world responds in kind. You attract what emanates. The journey of rebuilding is slow but profound. And when you start to see yourself with different eyes, your whole universe changes. Decisions become firmer, boundaries clearer, and your presence more valuable. Not because others have come to see you differently, but because you recognized yourself. The greatest revolution you can experience is this: to stop chasing after those who don't want you and start walking towards your own growth. When you change, everything changes, and that's just the beginning. There is a moment in the journey when everything seems to align internally, even if the world around it continues to be in disarray. That's when you realize that you no longer need the approval of those who ignored you to feel good about yourself. The journey of personal empowerment inevitably passes through this point. The rediscovery of your own identity outside the mirror of someone who did not know how to value you. In this process, it is common to revisit memories, recall conversations, pass on attitudes, and seek answers in old gestures. But there comes a time when those memories stop hurting. They become just parts of a past that no longer defines who you are today. And it doesn't happen overnight. It is a constant maturation, the result of the decision to no longer cling to what hurt. As you advance in this reconstruction, your gaze becomes more discerning. You stop accepting any presence just to not deal with the silence. He begins to value his own company. The time that was previously used to try to fix what was broken is now invested in what can be built. And this transformation is silent, but powerful. Many people don't understand the impact they have by neglecting the other. Some get used to receiving attention even when they don't offer reciprocity. Therefore, when you walk away, the scare is inevitable. The unexpected absence of those who have always been available is a blow. She feels it, and he will try to understand what happened. He will look for signs, observe their attitudes, and maybe even seek contact, even if disguised. And it is at this moment that the emotional balance is put to the test, because it's easy to relapse when there's homesickness. It is easy to give in when there is a shortage. But you need to remember why you moved on. Remember the moments when you felt diminished, left aside, ignored. This is not to feed resentment, but to maintain lucidity. There are situations that only seem good because memory softens what hurt. As you grow, your pattern also changes. What was once acceptable no longer fits, and this is a sign of evolution. It is not about pride, but about self-respect. You begin to realize that healthy love does not demand proof, does not require unilateral sacrifices, does not impose the loss of self to keep the other close. When she tries to return, she will be tested. Because the discourse may have changed, but the behavior may remain the same, and you need to know how to recognize that. Pay attention to the details. Words may be beautiful, but it is actions that reveal the truth. If the interest is fleeting, so will the attitude. If the return is due to a wounded ego, you will soon be discarded again. That's why your decision to grow needs to be firm. You're not going down this path to impress anyone. It's doing it for you, to be better, more whole, more conscious. Anyone who wants to walk by your side will need to be on the same wavelength, because now you know where you step. He does not accept more halves, nor conditional loves. This posture transforms everything around you. Your bonds become more authentic. Their relationships deeper. You attract people who vibrate in the same tone, and that completely changes the way you live. What used to be anxiety about being chosen is now tranquility for being able to choose. You are no longer an option and become a priority. But, first of all, for yourself. And in this new time, lightness becomes his ally. You don't have to prove anything anymore. You don't need to compete or wear yourself out trying to show that you are enough. Because you know, and that's enough. Whoever sees this will approach it with respect. Those who do not realize it will be left behind. And that's all right, because his peace is more valuable than any attempt at reconciliation that is not accompanied by truth. This new cycle is one of harvest. You planted silence, patience, dedication to yourself. Now it's time to reap ripe fruits, confidence, insight, restored self-esteem. And this harvest is just the beginning of something much bigger. His life now revolves around what he builds, not what he consumes. Around what feeds your soul, not what depletes your energy. So stay focused. Keep getting stronger. His trajectory does not need an audience. His progress is quiet but remarkable. And those who really have eyes to see will recognize how much you have grown. But even if no one recognizes it, the most important thing is that you know who you have become. And that in itself is already cause for celebration. From the moment you stop chasing after those who don't value you, something powerful happens. You free yourself. And this freedom is not only external, it is internal, deep, silent. It is as if a chain has been broken within you, and finally, your energy can flow without wasting itself in fruitless insistence. This is when the focus shifts from the other and turns to you. In this reunion with oneself, a lot comes to light. You begin to realize how much you have ignored your own wishes in the name of an illusion. How much he postponed his plans waiting for someone who didn't even know if he wanted to walk by his side. And then, what seemed like love turns out to be dependence. What seemed like nostalgia turns out to be empty. But now, you have clarity. And that changes everything. It's not about closing yourself off from love. It is exactly the opposite. It's about making room for a love that is reciprocal, mature, committed. Love that does not exhaust, that does not confuse, that does not disappear when it is most needed. But to live this, it is necessary to first clear the residues of what was not true love. Only attachment, neediness, or desire to prove something over time. You will realize that the person who left you in doubt is no longer so interesting. And not because it has changed, but because you have changed. His gaze was raised, his value was consolidated. Now, you recognize patterns that previously went unnoticed. It identifies signs that it previously ignored. You have become someone more selective, more firm, more aware, and this growth is annoying. Especially those who got used to his old way. Always accessible, always understanding, always trying to solve what the other didn't even recognize as a problem. Now that you say no, that you set limits, that you prefer silence to humiliation, many will call you cold, arrogant, or proud. But make no mistake, this is just the natural reaction of those who have lost control over someone who has finally found themselves. There is nothing more powerful than someone who has learned to be enough, someone who doesn't need company, to be happy, who doesn't rely on the approval of others to validate his existence. This type of person emanates a firm presence, which intimidates those who live on appearances, and you are becoming just that person. Its strength now comes from within, and that's indestructible. Those who truly love you will recognize your transformation. They will rejoice in your growth. They will want to walk by your side, not out of necessity, but by choice. Because that's how healthy relationships work, by affinity, not by lack. Out of respect, not out of fear of loneliness. And this is only possible when you rebuild yourself. So, move on. Keep taking care of your mind, your body, your peace. Invest in new projects, explore different places, get closer to those who are good for you. The world is full of incredible possibilities, and you just need to be whole to experience them in depth. At every step, you distance yourself from the past that limited you, and this distance is necessary, not because you hold a grudge, but because you have understood that some chapters do not deserve rereading. They were important, yes. They taught you, molded you, revealed to you strengths that you didn't even know you had. But they cannot be revisited, because you are no longer the same person. You now understand that what hurts teaches, what goes away liberates, and what remains transforms. And the greatest transformation happens when you choose to put yourself first, not out of selfishness, but out of emotional survival. After all, no one can offer you healthy love if you don't love yourself completely. And if at some point they return seeking to relive what was interrupted, look them in the eye and see clearly. Did they really change something? Or did they just miss your presence? Are you willing to build or just want to satisfy your curiosity to know if you still have space? It is in these questions that you will find the answers you need. And often, the wisest response will be silence. The real power lies in not having to prove anything. It is in going on in peace even when the other expects a reaction. It is in not giving in to the impulse to return to what has unbalanced you. His walk is now firm, his destiny is clear. And you know, there is no going back when the heart has already moved forward. As time goes on, you begin to realize that maturing emotionally isn't just a choice, it's an urgency. It is as if something inside you cries out for a new level of consciousness, where your peace is no longer negotiable. And it is at this point that your decisions gain a different strength, because you have already understood that you can no longer live according to the expectations of others. His priority now is to preserve what he has built, his stability, his clarity, his new vision of what really matters. Everything that once shook his emotional structure now just goes unnoticed. Because you have learned to select what comes into your life. You have learned to discern between what strengthens you and what drains you. And in that process, you don't lose. you break free. Because giving up what doesn't add up is in fact an act of courage. And courage does not mean the absence of fear, but the decision not to be paralyzed by it. You are afraid, yes, like anyone else. Fear of starting over, of giving yourself again, of trusting. But now you have wisdom, and that makes all the difference. Wisdom shows you that not everything that glitters deserves space. Not every approach represents affection. Not every turn is genuine repentance. Some people return just to make sure they still have the power to shake their peace. But when they find a new you, more centered, more serene, more secure, they end up giving up because they realize that the control they had no longer exists. That's what happens when you rebuild yourself from within. Your soul is strengthened, your intuition is sharpened, and your presence becomes steadfast. You no longer need to explain yourself, nor justify decisions. He simply acts in coherence with what he believes. And this coherence is the greatest form of respect you can offer yourself. Perhaps she perceives, from afar, this new posture. And you'll feel something strange. It's not anger, it's not sadness. It's a silent discomfort of realizing that you no longer put it at the center of your world. Because now the center is occupied by yourself, and everything that gravitates around needs to have purpose, truth, and reciprocity. Otherwise, there is no space, and as much as the heart, from time to time, misses what has been, you have learned to welcome this longing without sinking into it. Because he understands that feeling is not the same as going backwards. That remembering is not synonymous with wanting to go back. It's just part of the process. The memory is alive, but the decision is rational, and you decided to follow. His routine has changed. Now you get up with other thoughts, other goals, other looks. The time that was previously spent with anguish and insecurity is now invested in knowledge, well-being, spirituality. You started to take care of yourself with more zeal, as someone who finally understood that it is your own home, and a home needs to be protected. She may try to find you in the same places, but you're no longer there. Not because it ran away, but because it evolved, grew, overcame, advanced, and those who remain at the same point will never understand those who chose to go further. And there's nothing wrong with that, each in their own time. But your time now is to fly, not to return to the ground where you were left. You now look forward with the eyes of someone who has cried enough. You've waited too long. He has already given himself more than necessary. And that past, even if it is still present in the memory, no longer holds you. It's just a reminder of how much you endured in silence, how strong you were without being noticed, how much you fought not to lose yourself for someone who didn't know how to value you. And in this new cycle, his gaze turns to new possibilities. Different people, sincere conversations, light bonds. You don't want more emotional games, nor manipulations disguised as affection. What you are looking for now is true connection. It is someone who arrives with peace, who disappears without noise, who remains without needing to be convinced. You're not too picky. You've just learned not to settle for crumbs. And whoever calls you difficult is probably used to people who accept little. You don't accept little. Not because he thinks he is superior, but because he now understands his value. And those who understand their own value never again accept to be treated as a disposable option. So stand firm. Continue to be your priority. Strengthen your roots even more. For he who has deep roots is not uprooted by any storm. And if by chance someone tries to get closer to you, let it be for what you are, not for what you represent. Because you are not a trophy, nor a prize to be won. You are presence, you are depth, you are truth. Whoever wants to be by your side, let him be whole. That arrives willing to build, to share, to grow together. Because now you know. Those who only come when they miss you, but didn't stay when you needed them, don't deserve to be part of the new chapter they're writing. There comes a time when Silence becomes the most powerful response, not out of disdain but out of maturity, because you understand that you no longer need to wear yourself out, trying to be understood by those who didn't want to understand you when they had the chance. The game changes when you learn to choose your peace over the need for explanation. The I. Person who once underestimated you may still be watching from a distance. Maybe he expects some relapse from you, an attempt at reconnection, some breach. But you no longer respond with anxiety. You've become someone who prioritizes your own emotional sanity. And this is rare, it is firm, it is worthy of respect, even if some never admit it. Now, your mind is focused on what really matters. Your energy is no longer available to those who do not know how to take care of it. You understood that self-love is not vanity, it is survival. And that any relationship that makes you doubt your value does not deserve continuity. Maybe she'll come back, trying to rekindle something. But you've already gotten back on your feet. You already know that those who really care don't disappear. Whoever wants to build, stays. And those who only play with feelings get lost in their own inconstancies. Your heart now recognizes this difference clearly. You don't have to prove anything. His journey, his evolution, and his posture already speak for themselves. What once shook you, today is nothing more than a memory. What once seemed like the end was only the beginning of his liberation. And whatever comes from here on out, let it come with truth, because that's all you accept now. Authenticity, reciprocity, real presence. Those who understood this never go back to who they were. And you, now, are someone totally new. And that's enough. The path taken so far has revealed a non-negotiable principle. Emotional dignity needs to be firmly protected. Each word spoken, each reflection shared, built a journey of inner liberation, where the central point was not about emotional revenge, but about regaining awareness of one's own worth. The clearest teaching of this process is that self-love is not a response to anyone, but a personal commitment to one's own history. While many people are always trying to prove something to others, true empowerment happens when you choose to prove to yourself that it is possible to be reborn after pain, reorganize emotions, and move forward wisely. It became evident that the search for acceptance of someone who despises their value is an invisible prison, and that getting out of this cycle is an act of courage. The pain of rejection is no greater than the pain of living a life without direction, trying to fit in where there is no space. What one learns is that contempt, when it comes from the awareness of one's own importance, is not pride, it is protection. The message was also clear in showing that those who want to rescue their own self-esteem must first stop trying to be understood by those they do not value. It is not about becoming cold, but about awakening to a new perception of reality, where energy is no longer wasted with illusions or frustrated attempts at recognition. Those who mature emotionally begin to act based on decisions and no longer out of need. It exchanges reactivity for presence. He exchanges despair for serenity. He exchanges the fear of losing for a new gratitude for himself. The center of existence is no longer the other and becomes a new commitment to what makes sense, to what it builds. Another essential point is the difference between remembrance and relapse. It is possible to remember with respect, with learning, without going back. What was experienced was part of the trajectory, but it no longer dictates the course. Those who learn from what has passed become more attentive, more selective, more whole, and start to demand presence where before there was only doubt. It is not a matter of preaching superiority, but of encouraging dignity. To remember that there is a kind of silence that heals, a kind of absence that liberates, and a kind of decision that transforms everything. The decision to no longer beg for emotional crumbs, because what is true does not have to be forced. What is reciprocal does not hurt. It was taught here that those who hurt have no right to return as if nothing had happened. And the healer must not allow the past to reoccupy a space that has been remade with effort. The process of emotional reconstruction is sacred, and it must be defended with posture. Finally, the biggest lesson is this. When you value yourself, the world begins to see you with different eyes, because you change the way you walk, how you talk, how you impose yourself. You stop asking to be chosen, and you start choosing. And that changes absolutely everything.